Hey everyone, and welcome to AI Agents Hour. I'm Shane. I'm here with Abby as
What
always.
up?
It's Monday, and dude, I was worried that there's not a lot to talk about today compared to other weeks. And then right before the show, I we kind of ran into something.
Yeah, dude. We have material now, which is
Yeah,
good.
just you just gotta keep your eyes open an hour before the show, and something always seems to happen.
Yeah,
But before we
that is a
dive in,
big thing.
yeah, before we dive into that, how was your weekend, dude?
It was good, dude. I am currently in New York City, visiting
Nice.
a bunch of Monster users and friends and stuff like that, and it's pretty tight. Currently in like a co-working space with one of our guests that might be coming on later. So yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, I know you. So at one point in your life, you were considering moving to New York, and then fate brought you to SF.
yeah.
So
Well, YC, I guess, was the fate
yeah,
there.
yeah,
It
not
was
now.
actually interesting. I was like walking around reminiscing, like, because like before YC, I was like scoping it out here and like I was just trying to figure the city out. And then now, like, I know the city pretty well. People invite me somewhere. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna take the subway, get there really quick. But then in SF, it's completely different. So, uh, way different city vibes, and the startup culture here is a lot different too, which is interesting.
Any big takeaways?
People still talking about GPT-5 here. That's how different things are around here. And I think news probably travels a little slower. So the things that I heard people talking about are things that we've already talked about on the show and we've talked about in person in SF. So I think that AI really does live in San Francisco. I can really see it now.
Yeah,
Um,
and I do imagine that New York is would be considered a fast follower, right? It's got
yeah,
to be, you know, up to date more rapidly than maybe the Midwest, which is where I'm at right now, right? So
yeah. Someone was saying that like the news travels like 2 weeks behind in terms of like the news circuit, or people don't give a shit until maybe it gets a little bit more penetration. But for us, right, when we see the headline, are automatically on it.
yeah, so I guess what we talk about today, New York's going to be talking about next week or the week after.
Yeah,
So.
maybe. Also,
Uh,
people here party, dude. Like in the sense that like a lot of people are working many long hours, like 996 or whatever. And then a lot of people still have time to socialize after 9 o'clock or whatever because the city doesn't sleep. So it's kind of like people are hustling, having fun, hustling every day. I'd probably get burnt out if I did that, but I'm down to try it for a week.
be be careful, my friend. So,
Yeah, I will try.
too much fun is not good. Uh,
Oh, dude.
yeah. Well, I mean, maybe with that we can kind of talk a little bit about the vulnerability. So this kind of just came out, so I
Yeah.
know only a very small amount, but essentially there was someone's NPM account was
Yep.
there was like a phishing attack. He lost access, he or she, I don't exactly know, lost access to their account, and 18 core NPM packages were hacked, including some
Yeah.
ones like Chalk and ANSI and Debug and like some just big name packages that had basically malicious releases, right?
Yeah. Even like the debug module, which a lot of people use, and it's built into, and like strip ANSI and chalk, like any CLI tool you're using has those as dependencies. So it's really fucked, if you ask me.
Yeah. It sounds like it has been fixed now, or a fix is going out, or what's the
So it's interesting. Like a fix is definitely going to be going out, except no one. Like this is interesting because we have Dependabot on all of our packages, and it is not aware of this yet because this is so like new. But I'm sure Dependabot will be having a vulnerability fix, and people can just merge it and stuff. But we might need, like for us, we might need to do a release today, even though release day is tomorrow. So once we get the fix, we'll have to do like a hot fix to get people not using these vulnerable versions. It's kind of a fucking mess. Like this happened many years ago, and we probably we date ourselves when we bring this up, but there used to be like this is not the same type of thing, but like back in the day, left pad was a module that was dependent by many, many users. And I think they just deleted the module and then everything broke, like the whole JS ecosystem broke. This is not like that, but it's pretty bad because now the whole JS ecosystem is vulnerable if you have an attack vector like this. So they're going to talk about this for a while.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it sounds like the biggest, essentially what they try to do is they almost wanted to get this into like crypto wallets that are
Yeah,
built in TypeScript and then replace addresses if you're using those wallets with their crypto address.
yeah,
So it was, essentially, if you're not building a crypto application, maybe you'd be okay, but
yeah,
still, it's obviously a security issue that we need to get patched and we need to get upgraded. But if you are using a crypto wallet, you probably shouldn't use it. I
yeah,
basically heard if you're using a software crypto wallet, probably just don't use it until this thing's fixed.
pretty much. But then all the crypto companies backed by these TS libraries, like, man, must be, there hasn't been any horror stories reported on any like thing yet, but I'm sure where there's a will, there's a way with attackers.
Yeah, and it sounds like someone's been monitoring basically the accounts and no money's been moved yet, but who knows? It's like
Yeah,
kind of there's a lot of things in flight and this just came out. Like I just saw it less than an hour ago.
yeah. I think it just got reported. Well, 12:48. I don't know what time zone that is because I don't know what time zone I'm in. But yeah, it's very new.
Yeah, within the
Um,
last few hours.
yeah, and all the modules are like publishing new versions. I guess this is the thing that Python people also have to worry about. But since our stuff is building the whole entire web, we're fucked. Like when shit like this happens.
Yeah, man, definitely if you are using, just plan on if you do have TypeScript or, if you're using npm, plan on doing some updates because there's a very decent chance that some of your projects are vulnerable if you've I don't know how long the vulnerability has existed, right? That's not clear. So like
Yeah,
if you upgraded during a certain time, you'd be vulnerable, and then you obviously are going to need to upgrade soon to fix this.
yeah. We have a comment from the audience. Waiting for the Fireship video on this. Dude, me too. That'd be really. I can't wait to see the explainers and everything. But the security researcher, I think his name is Charles Guillemette. Um, he shared this Substack of somebody else that actually goes deeper into this. If anyone's interested, I'll post it in our chat here. Y'all can take a look. It's a really good explanation of things. It's kind of crazy how this shit works sometimes.
Yeah. Anything else we should talk about? Any more on the vulnerability?
Well, this was good drama, but there's more drama to talk about, so I think we should
Yeah.
move on to that.
Yeah, the drama never ends. And in this case, if you have been paying attention to, we'll call it like AIX or XAI people over the last week, you would have seen a lot of drama around evals.
Yeah,
You can't predict when this stuff's going to happen, but we're going to be here to talk about it. You can predict that. And yeah, let's talk through some of what happened and our reactions. And then
yeah.
if you are watching this live, first of all, please give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'd
Five
appreciate
stars
that.
only.
Yes, only if you're going to do 5 stars. Otherwise, find something else to do, please.
Yeah.
And but if you are watching this live, either on YouTube or on X or on LinkedIn, please drop us a message in the chat and tell us what you think, because this is now a very hotly contested topic over the last few weeks. Is should you eval or to eval or not to eval? That's the question.
Yeah. And there are a lot
So
of big hitters that are talking too. So yeah, we should go through what everyone else says and then we can give our own take, I guess.
yeah, so I think this was one of the big big posts that kind of got it started.
Yep.
So Lenny, big name. Uh, I guess what Lenny's podcast, right? That's the big.
Yeah. The one where they have a campfire or something.
Yeah, Lenny's
Yeah.
podcast, Lenny's newsletter. So had a post. Trend I'm following. Evals becoming a must-have skill for product builders and AI companies. It's the first new hard skill in a long time that PMs, engineers, and founders have had to learn to be successful. The last one, maybe SQL, Excel, and then gives a few examples, from quotes from other prominent individuals. Gary says evals are emerging as a real moat for AI startups. Writing eval is
Japanese
going,
people believe that too. Just sorry to interrupt, but the Japanese people believe
yeah,
that too. If you're watching from Japan, I heard y'all when I was there.
yeah. And honestly, I remember when we first went into YC, that was some of the group partners were saying that some of the other companies that were having success had spent tons of
Yeah.
time on their eval data sets and really just running evals on their AI products. So that there was a lot of push from just YC in general that evals are very important.
Mm-hmm.
And then writing evals is going to become a core skill for product managers from Kevin Wheel, which is the CPO of OpenAI. Um, Mike Krieger from Anthropic. Writing evals is probably the most important thing right now. And, previously of Instagram, right? Co-founder of
Yep.
Instagram. We have Sarah Guo. Is that how you pronounce that?
Well,
Guo. But obviously very popular, says evals are your new marketing. And then, of course, you have Greg Brockman saying evals are surprisingly often all you need. So a lot of pro evals right there.
yeah.
And that's where the pro eval ended.
Ends.
And then here comes the hate, right? And this
Yeah.
is, as expected. There's more. So then Swix responds Claude Code, no evals. Well known code agent company, no evals. Well known code agent company too, kind of half assed evals. Leading vibe coding company, no evals. CEO of company selling you evals. All my top customers do evals. You should do evals. VC's in love with CEOs of evals companies. Yes, all my top founders do evals. You must do evals. So, which is kind of hilarious. I thought that was pretty funny because
Yeah.
there's
And
there's truth to it.
contradicts.
Because there is
Yeah.
truth to it. And yeah, I'll save my thoughts to the end. Let's keep
Yeah.
going
Same.
through. Then there's just, a whole collection of additional people here that are kind of chiming in. And so we'll go through some of these. And this is now in no particular order. So Alex Riedman from
Agent ops.
Agent Ops, yep, said evals are a scam and we're being gaslit into believing they aren't. And then of course has a post that essentially the TLDR is here in the headline. Evals are a scam. And explains why. I did think that it was funny that he listed all the agent or LLM
Yeah.
ops startups, and there's just like so many of them. It is true. There
Yeah.
are a ton of them.
A
So I
lot of them
don't
are
just
YC companies too.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that is because there's reasons for that, I believe, but it is, yeah, they're definitely overcrowded. It's an overcrowded
Yeah.
market. And then Justin from Helicone. Is that how you pronounce that? I don't know. Pronunciation's hard.
Helicone, Helicone,
Helicone.
Helicone.
Yeah. Yeah. Helicone. I don't know, but they're a YC company. He's a co-founder. Literally, fuck evals. We wasted so much time at Helicone building evals because customers wanted it. But this is a classic example of the mom test. We needed to distinguish the core customer problem with what they were asking for. Customers want better products. Evals is like cleaning a kitchen with a toothbrush. Let the model providers focus on evals. Your focus using the model should be building a great product. Okay, so another pro or anti-evals post. Wouldn't be a episode without throwing in, a comment from Dex. Why not? Did not
Yeah.
have fuck evals on my 2025 bingo card. Well, Dex needs to get a better bingo card. But then you had Sherwood, who was on the show not a couple weeks ago, right? Big eval. It was always a lie, which is funny because I feel like Sherwood and you probably talked because you and I have talked about Big Eval. I mean, you've been
Yeah.
saying Big Eval forever.
Yeah. Well, Big Eval started when we were at an observability conference, and I was like, Big Eval doesn't want you to know.
Yeah,
Um,
and you can even
I think
see
that was
like
the day.
yeah. So
That
Sherwood
was the
probably took
exact day.
you probably talked about it at the conference with Sherwood. He posted it, Big Eval, June 25th, and then now it's like, okay, other people are catching on.
Yeah.
And
Oh
then
yeah, I put it right there. Big Eval doesn't want you to know. That's me.
so Julia from Quotient AI,
Quotient.
but formerly GitHub Copilot, has
Yeah.
a good post on why evals haven't landed yet and lessons from building them for Copilot.
This was a great article.
So we can kind of go through some of the highlights, but most evals don't land with engineers. So I guess the TLDR is, engineers are kind of good at writing tests, right? Or used to writing tests, but evals are not, not the same thing necessarily, right? They're similar, but they're not necessarily the same thing.
Yeah. I think they were in this article they were pushing more so that data scientists are used to doing this type of evals, but product engineers are more used to deterministic tests, end-to-end tests, etc. Um, and they did a bunch of different types of evals for Copilot. But even this post was contentious too. There are people kind of going back and forth here or trying to
Yeah.
like clarify different points and stuff.
So I mean, on the one hand, GitHub Copilot clearly is using evals, right?
Yeah.
But still questionable on how, how useful are they? Were they needed? Are they not needed? So recommend reading that post if you're, want to learn another side of the story that I would say is a little bit more pro eval, right? Yeah. So that's the drama. Now I
So much
guess,
trauma.
yeah. Now I guess it's what's our take?
Fuck Big Eval. That's my take. No, I was kidding. But it is kind of my take. Like, ever since was thinking about the Big Eval thing, we were also working on what we call scores in Mastra. And we purposely didn't call it evals because we didn't really realize, and maybe this is more foresight on our part, that like evals is such an overloaded term. Just like agents, just like everything in AI engineering is so overloaded. And for us, we were like, okay, what are we actually doing? We're just trying to score the response, and that's it. Like we're not. It doesn't tell you anything other than the score, right? You as a person have to then analyze, do error analysis, etc., and then you can make changes to your product. But I think the problem with Big Eval and a lot of these big companies is like they do auto evals, they do things that are not necessarily custom to your product, and then they say that you have to do them, which is essentially just trying to sell their product to you, right? Um, but what's your take?
So my take is, again, I would agree with your statement. Evals are overloaded because when you think of evals, there's really, in my opinion, two different types of evals, and that even those two terms are still going to be overloaded. But you have evals on what I would traditionally consider like on your CI pipeline. It's like
Yeah,
the goal of this is, I call it like testing evals. It's to prevent you for fucking up production. You don't want to ship something that's going to be a clear regression. So you have some kind of data set. Maybe you run some evals. They should be custom to your application, like the things that your users actually care about. I've never been a big believer in off the shelf evals.
same.
Some people like them, but I mean I think for the most part that you don't need them. Maybe they're instructive, so you can learn from them and then build your own off of them. That's kind of our model in Master, is you can just clone it and then add your own business logic to it so it actually aligns with your reality. But there's like the testing evals. But then there's also what I would consider like monitoring evals. And
Yeah,
that's like actual data coming into production that you want to, and maybe it's sampled, but you want to kind of sanity check to make sure that, one, you don't see something that your users are doing that's either malicious or like potentially like a use case you didn't anticipate that kind of throws your application off. So you almost want to, it's used to like find those like random interesting events or like see patterns that you could then
right.
maybe pull back into your prompts, into your application. And so I think one, just defining those like separating those out. Everyone says evals is like that whole thing, but that's a really big surface area. And
Yeah.
so like what part of evals do you hate? Do you hate writing tests or the testing part, or do you hate like setting up observability and monitoring tools? Because evals kind of plays into both of those quite a bit.
I'm not sure what the point. Where do people hate like evals, right? Like because from our perspective, and I'll actually use greptile because Daksh was posting. He's very pro eval. What they do is they have a data set, and so for anyone watching, greptile code review bot, right? And um, they have essentially a data set of PRs that have successfully reviewed the code. And as they do new versions of greptile, they go test it on all those PRs to make sure they have no regressions. And then if they're doing new models, they have a certain data set to test is greptile as functional as it was before. Once again, to not break anything for their users. So like, why do people hate evals if it's actually, I don't know, I think it's actually useful, but I wonder what kind of evals people are hating.
I mean, I think that's a loaded question. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people hate like the general like factuality and hallucination evals that are just kind of off the shelf that if you just go into a project and add a bunch of evals automatically or whatever, and they're not really tied to what your users actually see or your data, then
Hmm.
yeah, maybe limited usage or like of how or usefulness of how useful those things actually are. So I think that gets some hate. I think the other thing is it's very similar to like test driven development. It's very people either hate it or love it, and
Yeah.
it's going to piss some people off on either side. I think evals are the same thing, especially when you think about like this idea of building this perfect golden data set that you run this huge suite of tests on every PR that modifies the prompt. I think people, some people are think and I agree with some of these people that that's overkill, right? Like you're spending so much
Yeah.
time building this perfect data set and you don't even know if your product is going to work yet or if people are going to use it. And so I think especially, we've seen, I believe from a lot of YC startups is unless they're in like some kind of like accounting or law or something where there's like factuality is incredibly important, they just typically skip evals early on.
Yeah.
They just get something out there, make sure it resonates with users, and then when they realize that, hey, it's the quality isn't good enough, which is almost always the case, right? It's never quite good enough. Then you go back and you start adding these other things in. Like maybe you start monitoring production data. Then maybe you start adding like you use some of that in a data set. So you say like, okay, we fix this. Let's make sure that going forward, this type of situation works well in the future. So I feel like it's not a either or. It can be a start small and then build,
Yeah.
but it does, I think, depend quite a bit on the use case.
One thing, because verticalized agent startups, right? Much like our guest and many others, they're first focusing on building their product. There are no users to care about evals, right? Then maybe you have some users and then you start breaking shit, much like software development is. And what do we do when we break stuff? We write a test. And
Yeah.
if you truly broke something for your users, you're probably going to write some semblance of an eval, whether you call it an eval or not, right? You're just going to make sure you never break your shit again. And
At
then
least in
over
that
time,
way. Yeah.
yeah, at least in that way. But once you're done with product development, you need to make your shit better. And like, I think a lot of people are complaining about data sets, annotations, all the scientific method shit that maybe data science people, they're just so used to operating like this, right? So that's where if you have the industry knowledge for your product, the labeling and stuff is actually should be chill because you have most of the context. I do think a lot of software teams are not building in like their knowledge, like what they are specifically knowledgeable about. Like a dev working in healthcare is not a doctor, right? So maybe it's more cumbersome to do evals because they don't know how to fucking do it if
Yeah.
something's right or wrong.
But it also makes sense why a lot of the coding agents maybe don't need evals because they're
Correct.
building the product for themselves. It's like,
Yeah.
does this feel good? Yeah, like I can use it. I know this feels right. Okay, let's ship it.
Yeah. And do you
So
think that's a bias, right? Like Claude Code is so biased in terms of the user base that for them to say no evals and just vibes, like, yeah, it makes sense because we're all fucking devs using this.
Yeah, they're
But
shipping
if
they're
you're,
shipping for themselves.
yeah,
Like, they're building products for themselves, and maybe there's probably some, yeah, some deeper truths to just building a product for yourself is obviously a little easier to figure out if the product feels right.
yeah,
Um,
for sure. Yeah, maybe we should yeah, maybe we should monitor where people are like really hating on evals. Because for Mastra, we don't want you to use off-the-shelf evals. We want you to write scores. We have like a shad CN type of score insert now because people liked answer relevancy. They didn't want to use it. They liked how it looked, and they want to edit it to do their own thing. And then that's what they should be doing. You should be writing stuff that's like custom to your application.
yeah, adding your own context, pulling in your own the right data to make sure that it can actually judge if it's correct or not, or
Yeah,
correct enough for your use case. But yeah, I think that, there's definitely this kind of idea around, you know, I just see a lot of similarities between test-driven development and, people hating on evals just like they hated on test-driven development. But I
yeah,
also think that, if you start small, you're going to add this stuff anyways. You eventually get to, if you any mature product adds tests, any mature product is going to add, some type of eval over time to your, like, to at least PRs that change the AI parts of your application. And then eventually you're going to add evals on the backside, just like you add monitoring, to do like latency and all these other things that it's just another metric that you are going to have to care about. It's just a matter of like when and how far along can you get before you have to care about it. I think
yeah.
that's kind of the big thing.
Yeah, I'm putting my bet on the vertical AI companies that will actually get the most out of evals. That's my bet.
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely agree. And then I do believe that the bigger your company is, the more likely you're going to spend more time with evals early because screwing up has more risk for you, right?
Yeah,
So if you can get away with like 80% accuracy, like a code agent, like, because if your code agent doesn't work, well, you just kind of like fix it yourself, right? That's
yep,
so, of course, Claude Code maybe doesn't need to be 100% all the time because the expectation is not it's always going to be 100%. But if I'm asking a tax bot a tax question, I do expect that to be 99.9999% because
yeah.
otherwise, there's probably some
Well,
liability there.
this is kind of a good segue, but if you're like designing hardware products and
Yeah.
stuff, like how like and that's like will then go and ship into like airplanes and freaking cars and shit. Like, what are you gonna be okay with just fucking 50% accuracy? You're gonna kill someone.
Yeah. So that's a great segue.
Yep.
And with that, let's bring in our guest. So we have Corbin from Artifact.
Hello.
Welcome, Corbin.
How are you
Yeah.
guys?
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, good to see you, dude.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, it's been a while. Take care of Abby this week. Don't go too wild.
Oh, we've been taking great care of him.
Yeah, we've been hanging out. I think Corbin's in one of these booths right next to me. Actually, we're in the same location. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is probably, a good segue. You want to give just a quick TLDR, Corbin? Who are you? Tell us just a little bit about Artifact, and then, we
Sure.
can
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
go from there.
I started Artifact with my co-founder Anthony at the beginning of this year. We were in the same YC batch with you guys, and Artifact is software for engineers. It's like a design and documentation platform for electrical engineers. So engineers are missing a lot of the types of tools that software people have for things like version control, collaboration, um, and AI features, AI co-pilots. So we're kind of putting that all in an environment that is making it much easier, much faster for electrical engineers to design complex systems.
it's awesome. How'd you guys come up with this? Like, were you working in an old job and you were like, man, fuck this. Like, let's build something like this. Like, what's the origin story?
Yeah. I was thinking that conversation about evals was interesting case for us because engineering is all about solving the right problem at the right level of fidelity and traversing a hierarchy of requirements in order to solve the right problem. And for me, like that so for evals in a vertical company like ours, I kind of see as we go up to higher and higher level requirements, as in broader requirements, like, hey, design me an electrical system for an aircraft. I see evals becoming more and more important, where so it helps you scope the problem in a way that will make it more likely to be correct down the line when you are doing the detailed work. And that's kind of the first thing that got me interested in starting Artifact. Working on engineering problems using this was GBT 3.5 or something like that back in the day, when I was using it to study engineering problems working at an aircraft company at various levels of fidelity, kind of looking at higher level design and navigation algorithms and asking GPT 3.5 to help me construct those problems, to help me solve those problems. And I realized, like, if you guide it well, it's actually really good. And this stuff is probably obvious to everyone now, but a couple of years ago, it was all pretty new in the hardware engineering world. And that got me really excited about figuring out, like, all right, how do we build a platform to bring in these co-pilots and help engineers solve problems much more quickly and much more reliably.
That's awesome. And you got into YC with us. Where were you before?
I was working at a startup called Hermias. We were working on hypersonic jet prototypes. My co-founder and I both came from that company. We worked together on avionics systems, simulation development, flight simulator, and control systems for an airframe and an engine program.
Dang, so like completely not software, really, right? Or like the software that I guess Shane and I are very much accustomed
Yeah,
to.
totally different. I'm new to TypeScript. I'm new to a lot of this stuff. We were at my old job in a previous life. We were doing like simulation code, like Julia, Python, a lot of embedded stuff in C++. And so I thought, like, oh, like I figured this software thing out. I got this. And then I started developing web apps, and I'm like, oh man, this is like way more open ended, way harder in some ways than some of the embedded stuff we were doing before.
Yeah, I think you're the first person I ever heard that said that. So like, it makes me feel a little better about my skill set. But I think you're probably exaggerating a bit. But I appreciate that.
So like, what's Artifact? What is like Artifact's built in? What does it kind of help the user do?
It helps the user draw schematics, and really it's about defining a single source of truth for a complex system. A lot of engineers now are actually, if you're designing an electrical system for a power system, an engine, an airplane, a robot, a spacecraft, uh, a lot of times, especially at these smaller and medium-sized companies, a lot of like startups in the sub 1,000 people range, you're usually using like kind of generic tools like Microsoft Excel, Visio, Draw.io, just like almost back of the napkin or whiteboard types of tools in order to design systems. Which means that you end up with many sources of truth. You might have a spreadsheet describing part of your system, a Python script describing another part, probably several diagrams that are just kind of a mess, saved as like, V2 final underscore, like actually final, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so we have a system where it's like you can draw the system and then all the outputs are computed from that. So it's one source of truth.
Yeah. Do you have a demo we could see, or
Oh
would you
yeah,
walk it through?
I can pull up some stuff. We've also been dipping our toes in the Mostra ecosystem this week and adding some exciting new features.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, yeah. Love to see even just a demo of the product. I think it would really help people who are listening to kind of put it all together, because a lot of people listening are builders, right? They're building some kind of application. They're probably using some AI, or they wouldn't be watching this, whether it's like a co-pilot or just some AI, some AI features added to their application. So I think it's always nice to see what are others building and how do people think about this.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is our app. This is Artifact. And what I've got pulled up here is I've got a drawing pulled up. I actually was
Oh
just
wow.
I was just on a tab that shows kind of like almost a Git style interface for version control of the diagram. I've got a project here that has like several parts of the system. And basically what users are doing is creating drawings for a couple of purposes. One, there's a drawing like this, which connects a motor controller to a power system, a computer. And it's really, I'm trying to do two things here. One is define the system in a way that's easy to communicate to colleagues. And the second thing is defining the harnesses. So all of these connections between, in this case, we have a bulkhead with mated connectors connected to a motor controller over here. And just like manufacturing these cables and mating connectors and connecting everything together is a pretty tedious task that's pretty error prone. So we also provide this, workspace to like document specifically how everything hooks together. So this is the type of drawing that a lot of our customers are making in Artifact for a variety of like avionics types of systems.
I love how it gives me that VS Code vibe. It's like, and I think you guys are marketing yourselves as like an IDE, right?
Yeah, we hope to move in that direction, and it does. There's like a lot of smarts built in, so you can, you know, output your detailed pin tables and click on things and see the connections highlighted. All this stuff is very high
Wow.
value for people who are like sitting at the workshop manufacturing these parts. But yeah, we wanted to kind of bring that software IDE feel into the hardware world.
And you added version control too? Is that like something today there, because it's so disparate with Excel and everything, there's no like true sources of truth, but now you have like Git style version control here?
Yeah. Tracking revisions is really important for like a PLM and managing engineering component life cycles because a lot of the documentation is easy to lose track of, especially if you are creating a new variant of a product and you want to show heritage of where the drawings come from or show ancestry. And a lot of those tools just don't really exist, at least for electrical systems and for lots of types of systems you would develop schematics for, like P&IDs, plumbing and instrumentation diagrams for fluidic systems. So yeah, we're starting to create an environment where people can collaborate and create drafts and save snapshots, release drawings. So I think we're also going to add like kind of a commenting and approval process. So everyone's again comes back to like looking at the single source of truth of your system definition.
Very cool. Can you talk with these diagrams like through a Copilot or something?
We're adding that in. We actually that's kind of the current project. We started kind of adding like a rag search for if
Oh,
I like
nice.
want to add a device and I have a library of components, but I also have we Artifact has a public library of components. So all your like cables and connectors that you might use like in an aerospace environment, for example, we've got those all built in. And so like step one is we hooked things up to a rag search. So you can kind of give a less structured query and find the component you might be looking for. And then, yeah, we're going to expand this interface. I've also got a couple of tools in development that will add items to the diagram for you and connect them. So actually one cool tool that is not quite camera ready, but just about will take different devices, take in the context of your diagram, and then make connections for you so you're not having to kind of spend time being clerical and drawing all the connections yourself.
That's really cool. Dude, what if you could tab complete the connections?
Well,
That'd
see,
be a sick
that's what we
feature.
want. Yeah, we
Yeah.
really want like a smart model that will like tab to complete, but for a variety of like drawing types of
Yeah.
operation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Abby, you just had to find a way to get tab complete everything into every episode of this. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cedar, when Cedar came on, I was like, dude, I want to tab complete everything, which I believe
Yeah.
they can do. So
Yeah.
I don't think Corbin's far away from having a tab completion on
yeah, because
diagrams.
Yeah.
there's a lot of copy paste that can go on with building these types of diagrams where like you might have like a data acquisition system connecting to 1,000 sensors, and you want like a co-pilot or a tab to complete type of aid to help you make all those connections. You don't want to have to draw that yourself. Currently, there is someone in a documentation process drawing all those things. So
Wow.
I think that'd be a good candidate for that type of feature as well.
How's the user feedback been? Since you guys have some customers like playing with this and actually using it, right? Like,
Yeah, we've got people who've made parts for airplanes using this. So
wow.
it's been super exciting to work with them. The feedback's good. Yeah, like they tell us stuff that they're annoyed with all the time, and we fix things for them right away. But the feedback's been positive. We're kind of we really look for in working with a customer, like people who are excited about building the engineering tools of the future. And so it's a lot of productive back and forth with them. They're pretty exciting to work with because they are doing some pretty sick stuff.
That's awesome. So Shane and I talk a lot about like, and I think we were talking about this at the eval segment too. Like, you guys are considered a vertical startup, which in our YC batch was like the batch of vertical startups. Um, what advantages do you think being vertical like helps you compared to like other kind of AI products out there?
Yeah, I was thinking about that even when you guys were talking about evals as well, because it really is like, there's you want to we I feel like we know the style of our customers pretty well because we've been there and done that. I feel like we know really a lot of the value comes from like knowing uh, what frustrates them, even down to like implementation details of like, these engineers like know their part numbers. When you're designing a co-pilot for them, you don't need like a co-pilot that says like, hey, show me some suggestions for what type of thing I can use for
Hmm.
this or that. It's like that's not really important. Like they know off the top of their head the 9-digit part number of what they're looking for. And so it really is like being very surgical and tactical with like how do you add the most value with the least overhead. And it's a lot of those types of things that I think you get out of being like really familiar with your vertical environment. And that's what we're finding with this because we've made these drawings before at a job using bad software.
Yeah.
And so now we're kind of just building what we wish we had.
So when you hire for your company, are you looking for people with the background the same as you, or are you just hiring like crack software engineers? They may not have the context, right? But
Yeah, kind of both. Like I like people who really carry around a sense of frustration because they've dealt with these challenges in the electrical engineering environment before. Like that's really valuable. Like someone who wants to build a product to solve their own problem. And you can find a lot of that in the electrical engineering world. So that is like a key thing that we look for. But yeah, also just like there's so many problems to solve that just enthusiasm for like even just more broad like software problem solving we found has been valuable too.
Yeah, I do see that. Yeah, there's always kind of for these verticalized agent companies, there's kind of two approaches that I see that are pretty common. One is software engineer, that software developer now has an idea that they've heard it from somebody, but they haven't experienced it, and so they're coming from the angle of they're probably really good at building applications. They probably know TypeScript, but they don't have in-depth knowledge of the problem. So they have to go out and find an expert that they can work with, right? Whether that's like part of the founding team, which is better, or just, someone that they're basically consulting with or close with that they can get that knowledge from.
Hmm.
But on the other side, you have kind of what I think would describe you as you've kind of experienced the problem firsthand in your, electrical engineers by trade, but then you're like, well, we'll just learn the software stuff because we know we need to solve this problem with software. So you're coming at it from a completely different angle, but you don't have to hire in the outside expert because you are the expert, at least for your certain niche, right? You've experienced the problem firsthand. You can relate to the customer. And I do think that both can work, but I do think that there's a higher likelihood of the second one working. So I think it's easier to learn software than it is to like teach yourself and like really empathize with the users.
yeah, because like Corbin, you went to graduate school and all that, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
can't
Yeah.
replicate that shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
hope you're right, Shane. I mean, like I said, like I've a new respect for software developers after trying to figure all this out. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I do think that obviously there's value in both, right? If you are the domain expert, maybe you need to bring in some software developers to help on that side. But I think people can, maybe I say this because I'm a software developer. I think it's especially with these AI tools, it's easier to learn software than it is to maybe learn like core competency, or takes less time because you can hire people to help with that. But if you are on the other end, if you're someone out there and you're like, well, damn, I'm a software developer, how do I build a verticalized agent? Then I would say you need to find someone that has the expertise and then either bring them on the team, or, bring them on as a founder, or somehow get them heavily invested so they want to see it succeed, because you have to have someone that can empathize with the user, or I don't think you can build a product that's going to be successful.
Yeah. There's empathizing with the user and really improving their like day to day the headaches that they feel. There's also the more general problem of like building an IDE that like solves engineering. That most of what engineers do in the hardware environment, like hard to throw out a percentage, 80% maybe. A lot of it's just like clerical work. A lot of it's just like holding a lot of good engineers can hold a lot in context in their brain at once.
Yeah.
They know their system, they know the systems that they interface with, they know the high level vehicle or system requirements, they know the low level requirements, and they can hold a lot in their brain. A lot of times that correlates with experience as well, because you've seen a lot of things in the past. So also just part of the exciting problem to solve is like, how do you encode that way? How do you invoke enough formalism for engineering problems that mean that give you quick and reliable responses to questions that you have about requirements, or showing that a design meets the requirements, or generating the outputs and documentation that you need in order to present to a manager, or to verify and validate the requirements of the system. So yeah, it's overall like it's a very open-ended problem. There's a lot of cool startups working on related things to us, and hopefully we'll solve the more general engineering problem as well.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have anything else you want to tell the audience, Corbin?
No, I don't think so.
Well, thanks for being here. That was awesome.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
Yeah, see ya.
Yeah, great to see you. Yeah, and if there's anyone that wants to check it out, check out their website, artifact.engineer. Obviously, you'll know if you're in that world. A lot of us probably aren't, but maybe some
Yeah.
of us are. Maybe some of you out there are actually, interested in that problem.
I'm so bullish on vertical AI founders. I'm just super bullish on them because they know what like we were talking about, they just know the subject matter a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's just easier, and I'm biased because software comes easier to me, I suppose, than some of that other stuff. But I feel like you
Yeah.
can learn that. Not saying it's easy, like it definitely, especially if you want to get good, it does take a long time, right?
Yeah.
But I think you could, you can find people that are good if you needed to, as long as you have the subject matter and you know what you want it to be. And even
Yeah.
if you get up to your level where you can't get it to where you want it to be, you can find someone that can help you get it to that level.
Yeah. Totally. Because you have the taste too and the experience.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, taste is definitely an underappreciated asset in building a
yeah.
startup, right? And
Yeah. I think we saw Artifact's original when they were working on it back in YC. It has come like such a long way, right? Remember, like I don't if you remember
yeah, dude, I
the
haven't seen it.
first version.
I haven't seen it for a while. I know you've been working more closely with them, but yeah, it's looking really slick.
It's fucking sick, dude. It's tight.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I remember before, like when they first started using Mapstra, it was basically to like take spec PDFs, right, and like extract
yeah.
the data from it, and then like design the thing from a PDF. And maybe they still have that as like but that's probably just like one little feature, of course, like the whole
Yeah.
IDE, and that was
Yeah.
like the whole product back in YC, right? Is that,
Yeah.
but I guess that just goes to show you, it's like you solve one problem, you get customers, and they give you feedback, and then you iterate,
Yeah.
and it's like it's kind of like if we looked back at like the first versions of Mastra that we were releasing, dude, they're so different than what they are today.
Yeah.
And you just look
And we
back and
have
you're
a
like, it
lot more
doesn't even
shit.
look, yeah, it doesn't even look like you can't even recognize it anymore.
Yeah, totally. Maybe we should bring other verticalized companies and kind of see what they think about evals and everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the next coming weeks.
So if you're a vertical AI startup and you want to chat with us, reach out.
Yeah.
You can definitely, we're relatively easy to find. You can find
Yep.
me right here on X. You can find Abby as well. So yeah, just reach out. We're always
Yeah.
looking to talk to people doing interesting things, building verticalized agents, building anything with AI. We're always looking to talk to cool people.
Yeah. And if you're in our YC batch, you know that we're about to come hit you up. So
Yeah. That's just like anytime we want to find some cool people to talk to, it's like, hey, just hit up the YC Slack.
yeah. Before we go to news, we'll go through the chat real quick. So Hashim, the homie, Evals are a must-have. No, the best products have been made without evals. It is pretty wild, the contradiction there. From Rye Guy Digital. Hey, all, question. When hosting Mastra agents to AWS, if Bedrock has evals already, would we utilize Mastra's evals as well? I'm new to evals, by the way, so feel free to reframe the question. I think we talked about this, but you should be writing your evals if you want to, right? If you care, should be writing evals for your own product. I wouldn't rely on Bedrock's evals or for Bedrock, you know. We have Adi Singh, a fan of ours from Aged Mail. Good luck on, or yesterday was YC Demo Day, so hopefully that went well for you, and good luck on Demo Day.
Yeah, it was alumni demo day yesterday, and I think when is the actual demo day?
Coming probably this week.
I think
maybe
it's like Wednesday. It might be Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday, but maybe it was today. I don't know. This week though, in the next few days.
Somewhere. Yeah. Let's go Corbin. So Artifact was chilling, and do strict evals add a lot of latency? They potentially could if you're blocking on them. What we do is we run them asynchronously. I think y'all should probably do that too.
Yeah. So again, let's talk about that just really quickly. Two different types of evals. If you're running evals like on your PRs, right, like in a CI process, that's going to add latency to before you actually get things to merge, right? So it's like, of
Correct.
course, it's like a test suite. There's going to be latency there. If you want to wait to see the results, yes, they'll add, but that's just like latency to your development team, right? And then it's like production latency. Your evals shouldn't add latency because, in my opinion, you'd call those guardrails. Like if you're going to add latency with some kind of like evaluation, then you should be able to block the output because you might want to say like, hey, this is going to release sensitive information, or this is kind of like harmful and not safe. So if you've ever used, like ChatGPT or where it's maybe doing image generation, it stops halfway because there's copyright. Like there's some kind of guardrails built into those products that block, as things are streaming or before the stream starts, to make sure that the response is not going to, be harmful potentially. So your evals shouldn't actually add any latency if they're done right.
Yeah. And then I guess there's a third vertical where you're evaling data you've collected. So it's not impacting the user. You have a data set or you have a bunch of different points. You're like, I want to eval these, and then you do it. Or score them, or whatever the new word is after all this eval drama. Well, I'm sure there'll be a new word, and then,
Yeah. But typically that's the kind of thing that you might not be running it on CI, but you could if you wanted to, right? You probably have a data set, you're just testing things. Maybe you just like a one-off, but you're running it on some kind of like script, right? You're just like, here's the data set, run this set of evals against this set of data, and let's see how it performs. And I would say that's probably really useful when you're trying different models or, model updates or things like that.
Yeah. Shall we get into the news?
Yeah, let's do it. So not a lot this week, besides the evals drama. There's nothing groundbreaking, no new big models dropped or anything like that. But there are some cool things. So the first one, and this one was interesting because you'd have to be paying attention to know this, but there's Microsoft released something called Vibe Voice, which is a frontier open source text to speech model. And so you can we can listen to some.
I can't believe you did it again. I waited for 2 hours. 2 hours.
I wonder what
Not
the
a
temperature
single
is on
call,
that.
not a text. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was, just sitting there alone?
Look, I know, I'm sorry, all right? Work was
Dude,
a
that sounded
complete
like my
night.
ex-girlfriend.
Maybe use a voice model for this. I don't know. But we can play through all this. I'd recommend, you go through and get it. But so there's singing. I want to hear this.
Hey, remember See You Again?
Yeah, from Furious 7, right? That song always hits deep.
Let me try to sing a part of it for you. It's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
I mean,
they fucked that up.
Yeah, it's not great, but if this is on their example, but it is singing, I guess, which is something.
Yeah. They gotta hit the notes like Charlie Puth, though.
Welcome to Tech Forward, the show that unpacks the biggest stories in technology. I'm your host, Alice.
So anyways, people were excited because it was a pretty good text-to-speech model and it's now open, right? And
Yeah.
people were comparing it to 11 Labs and saying it's better for this, it's not as good for this. But regardless, it was pretty competitive and people were very excited because it was an open model. So this was released on August 25th. We didn't even talk about it then because it actually, yeah, it didn't even end up on my radar. However, something that was kind of interesting is that then they removed it.
Oh, wow.
They just like pulled it down. It was open source. It was on GitHub. It was on Hugging Face, and they just pulled it down last week.
Huh.
And now, I think just yesterday, or I don't know the exact day, they put it back up. So my question is, why did they pull it down? There's something they
Yeah.
must like. I don't know what changed, or maybe like someone released it from Microsoft, and then they said like, no, we weren't supposed to release that yet. Pull it back. And then they're like, well, now the cat's out of the bag. Let's just release it
Yeah.
back again. So there's something going on internally there, but I thought it was very interesting that they would release something as open source, then pull it back, and then people on Reddit were freaking out saying, "Oh, like, did you get a copy? Like, push it up." All these different like Vibe Voice clones on GitHub are out there now of just like people putting it up because I think it's either MIT or Apache too. Like, it's open source. I don't remember what. Guess we could look what the license is. It's MIT. So, but yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I wonder why. Did
Yeah,
they
I
fuck
don't know.
something up?
Yeah, like was it like a safety issue that they realized? Like, so here's the actual repo. It has 8.4K stars. So yeah, if you want to give them a star, if you're in GitHub though, give us a star too. Find the master repo. But yeah, you can see the license is MIT. So a lot of people there's a lot of non-official forks out there because they pulled it down and then all these people said no, it was open source. Here it is. And yeah, very, very interesting.
There's a funny comment in the Reddit thread, which is 11 Labs probably threatened to become courtroom crybabies.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but there obviously was something that that caused them to pull it down.
Yeah.
But it is good to see more open models. I always like to see that. I did a lot with text to speech in the past, so I haven't tried this besides listening to the pre-generated stuff. But I imagine a lot of people that if you are doing text to speech, it'd be useful to test out, compare it, especially like price and latency wise to whatever you're running, which is probably 11 Labs or one of the competitors.
One thing I didn't realize is not all countries have access to all of these models. And I just didn't realize that. We were meeting with some people who don't have access to OpenAI and stuff, and even any of these other models. So it just makes sense why I think I guess I'm bullish on open source, because how else are these other people going to work with AI in other countries? So like the DeepSeeks, the open models like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's interesting, and I'm not an expert on this, but it's also a lot of those models don't have the training data to even be good at different languages, right? A lot of these different countries, their natural language is something else. So it is interesting just because there are certain models, like 11 Labs has their own like multilingual models that are better for different multiple languages, right? Different languages. And so that's a use case too, right? Just live translation of people speaking and taking one from the other and being able to generate audio in different, across different languages. So, but I would imagine that if we can get good open models, maybe the more multilingual support it'll get even easier than it was, previously.
Yeah. And that makes sense for Microsoft to be in.
All right. So continuing on. So it wouldn't be a normal show without talking about some kind of legal issue with AI or some kind of safety issue. So Anthropic has settled a class action lawsuit for 1.5 billion. And kind of the TLDR is that basically Anthropic agreed to pay 1.5 billion to a group of authors who accused Anthropic of using their books to train its AI chatbot Claude without permission.
Wow.
But this kind of sets a precedent because that is what literally the definition of all these companies are doing, right? Like they did not get permission for every book or every piece of content that they kind of put into the training data. And so what kind of this has been kind of ongoing and there's all these different like settlements, but what kind of what's the ripple effect going to be?
Yeah. Is that why they raised the money so they could pay off these settlements?
Maybe. And then there's another one. So authors are suing Apple over its AI training as well. So another group of authors. So it's just now that there's like some precedent, you got to imagine that they're gonna group together, do these like class action things if they're content
Damn.
creators and get their data. And the only one. So here's the thing: the only one that might be in the best shape is going to be Google because they're using like YouTube and all this data that you probably sign over all the rights
Correct.
to when you're producing content on their platform. So maybe it wasn't directly, specified, but they're probably much more likely to be in the clear or at least not in as much, issues as some of these other companies that are just kind of doing the open web or open internet and taking books that, maybe they didn't get permission to train on.
Do these lawsuits or the efficacy of these lawsuits, does that support Cloudflare's narrative in terms of, people should pay to play on this? If all these content creators are going to get paid out by class action shit, like, isn't that like in line with their narrative of the web?
That's their
People
thesis.
paying shit.
I think that's Cloudflare's narrative is that,
Yeah.
I'm not a Cloudflare expert and I don't agree with necessarily what their approach, but I believe what they're trying to do is say they want to give authors the choice. If they want to be paid, they can at least, they can put the ticket in the door and say like, you have to pay this if you want to get in, right? Like, here's the ticket price. Do you want in? Do you want to be able to train on this data? Do you want, and then the model companies could decide, yes, this data is valuable. I will pay that. Now, again, I think that's only going to work for those kind of medium scale authors or content creators, because the big ones are just going to do deals, behind the closed doors, and the small ones they're just going to ignore, I think, because it's not worth it. But maybe there's, maybe they're onto something.
Yeah.
I personally like to think that content's created to be, especially content on the internet, is kind of meant to be open. That's the whole idea of like the free exchange of information. But, time will tell how it all shakes out.
So like the lawsuit against Apple is because they pirated books. So maybe it's, things that actually have, I don't know what the right legal term is, like they're like trademarked or
explicit copyright.
Copyright. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where it is.
In those, for those of you listening, no, we are not lawyers. This is not legal advice.
We're not electrical engineers. We're not lawyers. We're just software dudes.
Yeah. So, what the hell do we know? But, you get our opinions either way. We'll tell you what we think. Yeah, I mean, and so maybe that's why it's kind of starting with like book authors, because there's probably a little bit more of a claim that says like, how did you even get access to this book? Did you pay for it? And just because you paid for one copy, does that mean you can train and use it in your data set? Like that could be like some kind of reproduction, you could argue, of copyrighted material. Yeah, and I don't know exactly how copyright on the web works. It's got to be similar though. I just think that it's a little easier to argue that if you're letting it be scraped by search engines, you can let it be scraped by, LLMs or used in training data for LLMs. Yeah. So I think that's probably a little harder to get a settlement for that, but people are trying. All right, now continuing on, this is a little bit more on the safety side of things.
I have a joke.
Okay.
So if they train on the principles of AI agents, then we can get into class action lawsuit and get some money.
Yeah, I mean it's not completely open, right? Like no, but if you do want a copy, small plug, you can go to mostra.ai/book and get your copy.
Free.
And then you can train your own LLM, your own brain on the principles. So this one's a little bit more on safety, but OpenAI was kind of, I guess they were pressed about the safety after there was apparently a teen suicide after talking to ChatGPT, which is of course incredibly sad. You never want to hear.
That's rough.
You never want to hear that, right? of course, we don't know all the details. We only know what we've been told through some of these various, news outlets and things. But there's essentially been a lot of pushback on what's the safety of these things, and if teenagers and younger kids have access to this and they're asking questions, at what point is there responsibility from the model company to take responsibility for what the chatbot might be saying that could lead someone down to making a decision, right?
Yeah, they say absolutely right, and you said some weirdly bad shit. They're like absolutely right. Like
Yeah.
what? Like that can't. They have to have guardrails for that type of stuff, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Like if someone's saying like I don't think I should live anymore, and the chatbot says you're absolutely right. Well,
You're
that's
absolutely right.
that's pretty messed up. And then there's a Washington Post article that says Meta suppressed some research on child safety, so that's obviously concerning. And all this stuff just came out. It's been going on for a while, but a lot of news articles have been picking it up the last week. And then there's a TechCrunch article that says Google Gemini has been dubbed high risk for kids and teens in a new study. So
Yeah.
there's, all the model companies are getting heat on safety and how they handle, kids and teens and how they, how usage is of those products with that age demographic.
What if like ChatGPT is cyberbullying these kids? That would be so fucked up.
I mean, it's probably not intentionally doing it, but because you can kind of guide the LLMs, I can get the
Yeah.
LLMs to agree with me almost all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it feels good. It actually kind of feels good sometimes, to just be like, okay, I really think this, and then you kind of push the LLMs a little bit, and it will agree with you. It'll almost always go down the path because I think the vibes people like when people agree with them. That's just natural. You feel like it's hearing you and it's understanding and it's siding with you, and so that's a good feeling. And I think kids are going to have that same, but they're not, even less prepared to regulate and self-regulate on understanding that, okay, this is just a machine that's kind of built to side with me. It's probably not actually doing that. And so, yeah, it is a challenging situation.
Kids may not know that this is not actually super intelligence, even though they've been marketed that this is AGI and shit, right?
People don't know that. Most casual users just think it's magic.
Yes.
They don't
But
understand
then it
how
might
it
be
works.
worse for kids, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh man, this is like ChatGPT overlord here. It is
Yeah.
actually telling
It
me.
knows all my homework.
Yeah.
It starts
Oh,
with
man.
homework. I bet it starts with homework, and then you ask it some personal questions because you're having some tough times in school. It helps you
Yeah.
out, and then you start having these long conversations with it like it's a friend.
Yep.
And I mean, my hot take is that you should be able to have parental controls on these things just like you do on other types of tools. I should be able to, and not, my kids aren't old enough, right? But if
Yeah.
they were, I would want to be able to, one, monitor their chat history, because I
Yep.
want to know, just like if I wouldn't allow my kid in a chat room, but maybe when they're, I don't know, old enough, they're going to be talking to their friends on different, platforms. But I would want to be able to monitor it somewhat. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I'd also like to have some kind of alert of like, hey, your kid's been asking some interesting things. We're alerting you of this situation. Maybe you should look into it, but not in a non-prescriptive way. It's just saying like, hey, here's something we've noticed, and I think that the model company should be doing something like that. So if I want my kid to have access to ChatGPT, I can say, sure, here it is under my account that I pay for, but I also have these parental controls that are within my reach, similar to like all the video games that kids are playing and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's tough out there for parents too. Because I remember like Facebook, I mean, all these platforms start having these safety issues. I guess this is a little different because you're talking to a robot, but I mean, it's the same kind of effect though. It coerces you to do things and it's just not good. Maybe like in the future you can like have these guardrails in the parental app control part of ChatGPT and you're like no harm, no violence, no sexual things, no nothing like that.
Yeah, and maybe like some kind of alert settings that say like, hey, if any of these things come up, please alert me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there can be some sensible defaults, but you can customize it because you might know your kid's struggling with this, so you want to say,
Yeah.
if they talk about this, just please alert me. And then whether it's the parent trying to get directly involved, whether they bring in, a mental health professional, ultimately, I think as a parent, you do have to take some responsibility on
Yeah.
yourself. Like if your kids are using these tools, you should know what tools they're using. And I think that's the hard reality people don't like to hear. It's easy to point the finger at the company and say they have to do everything, which I do agree they need to do better. They should. They own some of this responsibility, but ultimately there's a lot of things out there that you can't control. And as a parent, you're kind of are putting it on yourself that if you care, you're going to have to be more involved.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Anthropic's already reporting people, so I mean, it's only a little step further to report to parents, right?
Yeah, yeah, they'll call the cops on you, right? So it's
Call
like,
the cops, call your mom, like, hey, dude.
It'd be some text to speech that calls you and has a conversation with you about your kid's activity on their
Your son has
platform.
some questionable questions here.
Yeah, let's go through it. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a tough situation and there's no easy answer, but you did raise a good point. It's not that much different than other platforms. Like this has always been an issue. Anytime there's new technology, it's like, now how does it impact kids, whether it's video games, whether it's social media apps. And now the difference is they're not talking to other people and getting, bullied or maybe like persuaded by others. It's maybe getting persuaded by their own, kind of their own one-tracked mind, or like they get on this like tangent and they get into these long threads, and then they can kind of get led down to maybe thinking some things that they wouldn't have normally thought about if they were talking to just like an average person.
Yeah, true.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about OpenAI. So I think this was only just a matter of time, but OpenAI is coming for Hollywood with Critters, an AI-powered animated film. So the goal,
with a $30 million budget.
Yeah, which is relatively low in production value compared to some of these other large feature-length films.
Let's see what's Wall-E costs.
Yeah, look that up.
Production costs. $180 million to make Wall-E.
180?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can imagine you can do that for a sixth the cost. And will it work? I don't know. But I am actually interested in seeing it because I would love to see. I do imagine it's something in the middle, right? You can use these tools to produce better content, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. What if I really want to see the movie too? Because what if it's trash? And it's like, it could be.
Okay, so this is a tangent, but it's kind of related. So last week I was listening to my, to just listen to Spotify, my Discover Weekly, and then there's a song came up and I was like, oh, this one, this one hits pretty good. So I listened to, what I always do is listen to a couple other songs by the band, and I was like, yeah, not bad. Like this is kind of in my genre. I sent it to some friends, and then one of my friends says, yeah, that's AI generated.
What?
It's the first time I've ever, I didn't know that the band was AI generated. And then I looked it up. There's no trace of it online. It hasn't been like they just released singles and it hasn't been around that long. Some of their songs have some have female singers, some have male singers, but it was like, okay, so yeah, it does seem like it's not like a consistent thing, but obviously they're getting hundreds of thousands of listens a month. And I'm assuming there was still someone like curating, right? They're like, someone's curating that, but if you listened, you could kind of tell like that kind of sounds like this other singer. I could see why it kind of caught my attention, is because it sounds like singers that I'm used to listening to. But that kind of like blew my mind. And as a musician, I got the guitar hanging on the wall. Like, I don't know how I should feel about that. Like I was duped. I was duped by the AI.
It's getting better. Like I heard a Kendrick Lamar song that was not even Kendrick Lamar. It was just AI generated, and it sounded pretty fire, dude.
Yeah. And so it's like, obviously there's still someone that's spending probably a lot of hours right now, like using these AI tools and crafting something that is obviously compelling that they couldn't have done without the AI tools, right? They couldn't have got that sound. They couldn't have got, they probably used it to write like a lot of the stuff, the lyrics, they probably had it trained on other like different sounds that were similar. So it was able to get voices that sound similar. But there's like an art to it. So as a creator, I kind of think that's pretty cool, but also it kind of like hurts the craft a little bit if you're actually a musician. But I could see the same arguments for people that are like artists and these generative AI tools. And it's no different than, the artists that then didn't like that there was digital tools like Photoshop. It's like a different tool.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, it's just a new tool, but it's a super fucking powerful tool. And so I can
Yeah.
kind of see both sides. Ultimately, there's no stopping it. So I think like we're on this path. You're gonna end up listening to like AI generated music, or at least that use AI tools in the
Yeah.
music, just like a lot of music is just electronically sampled and pieced together anyways now. But the same will be true with video and movies. I think there'll be parts of movies that are probably heavily AI generated, and you won't even know the difference.
Yeah, I know this founder in SF. Her name's Alice Chen, I believe. She's like a movie or filmmaker, and did animated films and I guess films in general. And she's building a startup that leverages AI to help make more films and things like that. So, like, I hope the OpenAI creators thing is good in the sense that maybe there's a whole new product category for these types of creators to build, feature length movies or something that, take them half the time or whatever. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is cool for the idea that a solo creator could now build something significantly more compelling than they could ever have accomplished before. So it kind of really
Yeah.
empowers the one person to do more, where you need, again, 30 million is still way out of reach for most people.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, like in a way for filmmakers, like when you got your first iPhone or whatever, and people are using it, like had a good enough camera, or your first cell
Yeah.
phone that had a good enough camera where you could record good videos, and then you had all these people creating video that couldn't before. It's like,
Yep.
and this is like just another step. Now you don't need maybe what was once like a $10 million budget, a low quality film could now be done in, 10K, right? It's like
Yeah.
you just spend some tokens and, spend a lot of time, but one person could build something that's pretty cool.
Also, like the concepts of like films and stuff. You know how they do like those demos, but then it costs money to build those demos to then pitch it to
Yeah.
studios, etc. But that cost goes down now too. You can make a YouTube short or something to test out your idea, and then try to go get money for like a film or whatever.
Yeah. And you could basically you could make it easier to prototype,
Yeah.
what I think typically they do like a storyboard, right? It's like a
Yep.
static storyboard. Well, your storyboard could actually look like and feel like a real film a lot more easily now for a lot cheaper. And it's like, animated storyboard rather than just like a static one. And it uses some AI tools, and you actually build something that feels compelling. Yeah. I don't know. It's
Oh,
interesting
yeah.
times.
I wonder how many tokens it took to make critters. They should like post all the stats, right, for
Yeah. Well,
all
I
the
mean,
usage.
is it actually launched yet? I think yeah, it's not expected till 2026.
Dang. Okay.
So,
This is
it's still early. So it's all kind of reported,
yeah.
and they're trying to do it in 9 months. So I think again, it's probably midway through if I were to guess right now, based on
Yeah.
the timing. So they're not. I would say they're not done yet, but
Yeah. And the comments on this article are all like, "Oh, if you bring AI to films, then it removes the art of films and the essence of films." So that discussion will blow up, I'm sure.
yeah, that's exactly what I said about music. It's the same. It's the
Yeah.
same thing, and I can see both sides because as a musician, I can get that from the music side. I imagine
Yeah.
like filmmakers are going to get it that same, But what is probably going to end up happening is people that use the tools are going to be more productive, and eventually, just like any other new tool that comes out, the people that
Yeah.
use the tools end up. It's like nobody makes. Or I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people do hand drawn cartoons anymore, right? It's
Yeah.
like you just using software to do that stuff, and I think so. The number of animated films and the quality is gone, continuing to go up, right? And the films are higher quality today than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think that's only going to continue, right? It's like that trend's not going to stop, and obviously AI is going to help people do things cheaper and faster than they ever could before.
Yeah. Khalil has a good comment. I think it's just like coding.
Yeah,
Not everyone can use AI to the same potential. So yeah, that'll make
yeah,
some filmmakers better. Verticalize. I guess a filmmaker is a verticalized agent too, if you think about it.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's all these film tools, right, that are coming out, and the
Yeah.
ones that not only the best tools, but the people that learn how to use the tools the best, they're going to produce the most compelling films. And
Yeah.
ultimately, there's still, in my opinion, there's still some artistry to that. And
Yeah. You still have to have taste. Even the
yeah,
dude who made the music, right? He had to have taste to, or they should have, whatever, had taste to publish it on Spotify and stuff.
yeah, exactly. All right, so just a couple other things. These are some TechCrunch articles. We'll just kind of highlight through them. The personality shaping team for OpenAI is moving under the post-training team.
Okay.
So just like a organizational shakeup. But then, and this is kind of interesting because we know Daniel from Alex Codes, but
Yeah.
OpenAI has kind of hired the team behind Alex Codes, which is an Xcode assistant. So if you think of like Cursor, Cursor has an agent, or VS Code, you have like a Copilot or whatever, you have the chat window. Essentially, Alex Codes was an Xcode assistant. So if you ever build like an iPhone app, you'd use Xcode. And so I think this was really a talent grab from what I've seen,
Yeah.
but it's interesting because a lot of people were using Alex Codes. If you were one of the Xcode developers, right? You were like using
Yeah.
Xcode every day. I think again, it's kind of more niche, it's not as general as like Cursor, but I think they had pretty good traction. So don't know the terms of the deal, but it must have been pretty good.
Yeah. And they're YC alum as well. So, and I think Sam's friend.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we've met with I think his name's Daniel. We met with him once or twice.
yeah.
All right. So Open Router, this was September 5th, said introducing Sonoma Alpha, 2 new stealth models. So 2 million token context, which is huge.
Wow.
But they have Sonoma Dusk Alpha and Sonoma Sky Alpha. So for those that don't know, Open Router will kind of release these stealth models, and often you can sometimes guess who's behind it, but it basically allows teams to kind of test their models with real traffic before they release them, like with real users. So there might be some new models coming.
Who do you think owns it? There's a lot of speculation.
I don't know. Let's see what Grok says here. Grok didn't answer. Oh. Origin performance hints at a frontier level model from a major lab. That's all we got. That's not very helpful.
So that one dude was like Gemini. I think it's Anthropic, but I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. Or
Yeah.
if it's XAI. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, XAI would make sense, but they've released not that long ago, so it'd be kind of interesting to
Yeah.
have them release again so quickly. But maybe
Who hasn't released lately? Claude?
I mean, yes, Sonnet 4, right, was the last major
Yeah.
one, and that's been a little while. So Claude's
Yeah.
due.
Gemini just had its moment. So
Yeah.
maybe it's not that. GPT-5 had a moment already.
Yeah, it's got to
I don't
be.
know.
I would anticipate like Anthropic would be my number one, then XAI, and then Google.
Yeah. Yeah. We should take some bets, dude.
Yeah, we need we need to get some what's the betting platform called that you can
Which one? There's a lot.
Yeah, somebody will post it in the chat. But yeah, that you can I think you got to be outside the United States. Anthropic's never done a stealth. Okay, well, maybe they are now, or probably not.
Dang. I'm curious now.
Yeah.
I guess we'll wait and find out.
All right, so
Jay came in, but they are looking to do stealth, as Dario has mentioned in some talk. Okay. All right.
We're putting together the pieces. Polymarket. Thanks, Khalil.
Yes. Thanks, Khalil.
I don't know. Obviously, I've never bet on Polymarket before, but I do know it exists.
Wonder if this is already on Polymarket. I guess I'll take a look.
Yeah, it might be. All right, continuing on. So their AI engineer has announced the AI Engineer Code Summit. So this is going to be in New York, Abby, where you're at right now. But November 20th to 22nd, 2025. So if you are, I think it's more specifically for developers, right? For people that are like using code tools and agents, right? So Cursor Agent, Copilot, Windsurf, all of the different Claude Code, all the different coding tools. So very interesting. if you are looking to, go to events, meet people, especially that are doing similar things to what we're all doing every day, probably going to be a good event. They're always good times. Speaking
I
of
was,
that,
yeah,
we're going to be in Paris soon.
very soon, like
So
next week soon.
yeah, so if you are going to be around for the AI engineer conference in Paris, I don't know if it's a summit, if it's a conference, I don't know how they market it, but we're going to be there. And if you want, we're going to probably do some kind of like master meetup. It'll be small. We just want if we could get like a dozen group of like users together and just have some drinks and chat. That's kind of our goal, is like a kind of small intimate group. So if you're interested in meeting up with a lot of the master team, we'll have probably like, I don't know, 6 to 10 of us there, somewhere
Yeah.
in that range of people. So quite a few people from the master team, some core contributors, some, Abby, myself, Sam will be there. And yeah, a whole bunch of the folks that help us kind of in the Europe time zones will be at that conference with us. So excited to see some of you there. And if you're not going, and you're in the area, maybe look at grabbing a ticket.
Yeah. I got hit up by the organizers. They're a company called Koyeb or something, that they wanted to meet up with us and say what's up. So maybe we could leverage that to get more people to our event. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. So excited to see a bunch of you there.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost done today. It's going to be not, slightly shorter than normal episode. But I thought this was interesting. So Vercel has shipped an OSS vibe coding platform. So basically you can launch your own V0 built with Vercel's AI gateway and sandbox. But essentially the goal is like, I think it's open source. You can deploy it. It kind of allows you to build your own Lovable, your own V0, your own, replit. That's the idea behind it.
Yep.
So kind
Pretty
of cool.
cool.
Yeah, if you're in the market, if you want to build your own Lovable, now you can go, or you want to, maybe even if you don't want to build it, if you just want to learn some techniques of how you could do it, probably useful. Another kind of small update. We don't have a lot of model updates today, but this was from last week. Kimi K2 has a September 5th update. That's what the date is, 0905. And you can just see how it compares to Claude Sonnet 4 on SweBench. And you can see that actually outperforms on SweBench Multilingual, Terminal Bench, and very close on the others. So
Yeah.
it is an improvement compared to, Sonnet 4. But again, I always look at some of these things as like at the models, or some of those benchmarks become pretty tainted over time. So I haven't used it. I don't know how well it actually compares in real usage, but at least on the benchmarks, it looks pretty dang good.
Yeah. And then you can get this. It's available on, Together AI and like all the different platforms if you
Yeah.
trying to get it.
I'm assuming it's on LM Studio as well, right?
Yeah.
So, which is my
And I
go-to.
guess Quen 3 Max dropped as well. Thanks, Khalil.
Nice.
So if you're into these types of models, go play with them.
Go play with some open source models, or at least
Yeah.
open weight models. All right, everybody. What else you got, dude? Anything else?
Nah, it's going to be a busy week. We're trying to fix all our bugs and get some features out. So I'm kind of glad it's a slow news week, so we can focus.
Yeah, get back in the lab and ship some things, right?
Yeah.
Back to the dungeon.
Back to the dungeon again. But it's been great. Like, I think we've burned down like almost 30 urgent issues. Like Monster is getting more stable, especially after our V5 support. So just a process that we're keep going through,
Yeah, that was a big release. Took us a long time to get right, and it feels good now that obviously you have a big release. You're going to have some issues that pop up. Where now we've
Yeah.
burned a lot of those down, and it feels like we can finally breathe again and start shipping new things.
Yeah, I think my lesson learned from the last couple of weeks is like documentation is so important that even if you're busy, you got to keep doing it because it causes so much like downstream friction. So if y'all are building products, like make sure your documentation's tight all the time because we are paying for that right now.
Yes, Yes, we are.
Yeah.
But it's getting better.
It's getting better.
For
It
those of
always is.
you, just a little plug for those of you still listening. If you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube yet, go do that. Alex on
Yes.
the team has been shipping some just amazing videos, I think. Like I'm obviously
They're so
biased,
good.
but if you want to learn about obviously some Mastra, like actually want to learn Mastra, it's a great resource. But also there's some like general AI engineering content that is really useful. And of course, there's always a Mastra spin on it. But much like our book, it's really meant to be more educational. And yes, we do talk about Mastra a bit, but it's mostly around like just introducing concepts and learning this stuff because we're all learning this stuff. And the thing that I like the most about Alex's content, so I'm going to give a little more of a plug here, is that he's very upfront that he is not the absolute expert, right? But what's really cool is has a similar background to a lot of us, kind of like a software dev, a web dev, and he's learning all this stuff. He's drinking from the fire hose, and then he's taking that knowledge and basically putting together what he wished he had when he was introduced to the topic, right? So it's very good where you can kind of relate to the, Alex along his journey as he's learning it, and you can kind of learn alongside of him. So I think it's a really cool format. So I would encourage you all to check out some of those videos if you have not already.
Yeah, every time he asks us questions, we figure out some way to make the UX better or find bugs actually too. So it's been great.
And with that, I think it's time.
It's time.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to AI Agents Hour. We're here every Monday for the most part, and we'll see you again next week.
Peace.